Hello and welcome to Great Minds Tutorials. As we have altered the name of our tutorials to Great Minds Coding ZA. And if you want to search for us on YouTube, you can search for @Codiso Coding and then it'll pop up. In this episode, I'm gonna combine two episodes in one area. I'm gonna combine method of writing and abstraction in one video, and then I'm gonna post the same video on the two episodes. That'll make sense because it'll cover the abstraction side and it'll also cover the method overriding side. Please make sure that you understand that. Okay, now I've keyed my projects. I was having a little project that I was working on. I've archived them. Now, in this case, I'm going to start again. We were working on app student. Or let's just simply name it a student app. In this case, we're going to work on that project. So now, let's just quickly go inside here. Let's just wait for it to load. Give a little bit of time. Okay. So if I come here to my navigator, go. Okay, we can close this. And there we go. This is what we're looking for. So in this case, I'm gonna come here and I'm going to create a backend class. I'll call it student. And then it's Great Minds Coding. ZA www. 3 W's. There we go. We're gonna have it like that. Okay, now what we're gonna do is that we're gonna also have a child class, and then we're gonna have it as an IT, or let's say ICT or faculty, ICT student, and the same. So if you're having a super class, this is another way that you can do inheritance. You come here, you can search it student. There is, you can see it here. You are having student, which is under here. And as soon as you say finish, you will see it will write the extents for you. So now I want to do inheritance. So, but before I can start with that, I need to go back to my student here and give it a little bit of attributes. But now I'm going to introduce what we call abstraction. So, okay, what is abstraction? So abstraction is, okay, what we can do here, let's add another one. Let's put in an HR, the whole Department of Human Resource student. Let's give it a little bit of polymorphism. All right, so HR student also has to have a super class, which is the student. There's this one. I'm gonna say okay, then we're gonna finish. Then we're gonna have it like that. So okay, now we're gonna go back here to student. So when we get here, I'm gonna start introducing you to something called an abstract, what you call an abstract class. So what does an abstract class do? An abstract class is a class that can implement abstract methods. So let's just quickly go through definition of what is an abstract class and what is an abstract method. So abstract class, Java meaning. Let's read through a little bit of a theory. Okay, so data abstraction is the process of hiding certain details and not showing and showing only essential information to the user. So yeah, that is what abstraction means. So now let me explain practically what is going to happen. So once you have an abstract class, you cannot have the process of class instantiation for an abstract class. Meaning that if I want the abstract class to be only visible, or the resources of this class only visible to me as a coder, and the user cannot see that, I'm going to use the process of abstraction. So, okay, now to specify the process of abstraction, you need to specify here that this is an abstract class. So now an abstract class is going to have, let's say, for instance, we are going to have private, everything remains standard string. We're going to have a name. And we're going to say private string. We're going to have a surname. My keys are a little bit sticky. I don't know why. Okay, but now it's fine. Private int street ID. Okay. Then now I'm gonna have my constructors. So I'm gonna have my default constructor. Insert code. Go to my constructors. Firstly, I'm gonna generate my default constructor. So this dot name, let's make it default. This dot surname, let's make it default. This dot student ID, let's make it default. So now I'm gonna get a parameterized constructor, insert code, the one that we're gonna use to update the class. Okay, now I'm gonna have my getters and setters methods. Getters and setters methods, select all, generate, and I'm also gonna generate the toString method. Right click, toString, everything. So now I'm gonna start introducing what we call abstract methods. So remember, for a method, so for me to hide the information, I need to use the process of abstraction. So now, so this is how it should work. Public abstract. This is how you specify that it is as an abstract method. So let's say we wanted to be void, and that abstract method, maybe you can say that is class type. So here's the thing about an abstract method. It needs to be terminated with a semicolon. Remember, for each and every method here, we open a open bracket and close bracket and so forth. But in this case, we're going to terminate it with the semicolon, right, to show that it's an abstract method. So now once we have that abstract method, then we're going to come to the side and you're going to start seeing something very interesting. You'll start seeing it say that ICT is not abstract and does not override the method which is inside class type. So this is where method overriding comes into play. Then what is method overriding is that you are using the same name. So as you can see here, we're going to use the same method, which has got the same name, class type. We want it to appear in both the child classes. Then that is what we call method overriding. Method overloading, it's when the names are the same, but the parameters which are inside are different. That is method overloading. There's a huge difference between method overriding and method overloading. But in this case, we're going to demonstrate method overriding. So what you need to do is that you will need to then implement all abstract methods. And there we go. So there's no need for you to make it abstract. Why? Because once you make it abstract, you won't be able to access it in the main class. We want to be able to access the ICT student. We're only going to implement the abstract methods. That is all that we're going to be doing. So now when we get here, then let's say we want to get a parameterized constructor for this. Reason being is because, remember, the student, you are no longer going to be able to access it. Let's say we want to get a constructor, but we want to parameterize it. And we're going to parameterize it like that. Okay, that should be sufficient. And we're going to get here, we also need a parameterized constructor for set code. And then we're going to say constructor, and then we're going to parameterize it with the second one. Then now, what we want to do is that we want to implement two different methods inside this because we have overridden. So now, to show that this is method overriding, we're going to see it with the overriding annotation. This annotation of @override, it shows you that you are overriding. That method has been overridden from the parent class. So and then we're going to remove this. And then after removing that, then we're going to say, okay, if the class type for all ICT students, they're going to have a day class. So we're going to say system.out day class is applicable. So we go to the HR students. HR students are going to be attending evening classes. Let's say our campus is too small and we do not have enough resources in order for us to cater all of them in the same time period. Okay, now, so here we're going to have evening classes. Applicable. So that should be able to appear that side. So now, since we are having this, we're having abstraction, which is applied here. And we are having this one is not abstract, and that one is also not abstract. Now we come this side to the main class. So here, I'm going to show you something. There's something which is very important here is that you can only declare a student, but you cannot initialize a student. It's very important. You are not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to say student, stud, object name is assigned to new student. This is not allowed. You're not allowed to do this. You're going to get an error. Reason being is because the student is an abstract class. So hence the error says that student is abstract and cannot be initialized. So what happens then is that you can only implement, so under your declarations, you can only declare and initialize only the ICT student. This you can because the class is not ICTS. Student, new ICT, but that cannot happen because you do not have a default constructor. So now you can also have an HR student, HRS for HR student, and then we can add the imports for both of those. And then there's one import which I'm not going to be using here, which is this. So, but I wanted to show you something that you can do whenever you're working with methods. But let us keep the interesting part to the examples which are going to come later on. So what we're going to be doing is that we are only just going to be showing the process of extraction and also the process of method overriding, which method overriding I've already done it. And I've also showed you that abstraction is once a class is an abstract class, you cannot initialize it, meaning that it's hidden from the main class. Because this side, we are in the main method, meaning that this is our main class, meaning that this is our front end, not accessible. only those which are not abstract, you can access them. So meaning that we can abstract, we can access only those ones. So what we are going to do now is that we're going to prompt user input. So the way we're going to prompt the user input is that we're going to then first have to say system.out.println. I'm going to do simple stuff. Please, all of the other stuff, I do them in the exercises. In the exercises, I become a little bit creative. I introduce your menus and all of those. Why? Because we are touching on a build up. Go through the playlist which we are having. Just go under home. There's a playlist for all of our exercises that we are dropping. There's nice exercises that you can use in order for you to build your programming skill. So remember, use the exercises to build the skill. This is just to show the theory behind Java programming. Okay, now, so we can say, please enter your name, so string name, surname, no, that one. It's an int stud ID. So, okay, when we get here, we're going to say that the name is then assigned to, we're going to need a scanner, obviously, for that. So I'm going to have a scanner, which is SC is assigned to new scanner system.in. And then I'm going to have another scanner, input, new scanner, system.in. So after this, what I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to be importing the scanner class and what I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to be importing the scanner. So we're going to use the sc.next line so that we get the full line. And here we're going to say system.out.println. We're going to say, please enter your surname, remove the ln. Then we're going to say name sc.next, next line. Then we're going to enter the student ID. We're going to say, please your student ID. Remove the LN here. And then we're going to have stud ID. It's going to be input now in this case because this is a number. Non-numbers and numbers, separate them. So next int because we are dealing with an integer. Okay, so now once we have this, is that now we can then create the object out of this. Create an object, any of them. It can be an ICT student, it can be an HR student. So now we're going to say HRS is then assigned to new, we are initializing, which HR student. And then we're going to give it the name, those parameters, surname, based on that constructor. And then we're going to give in the stud ID. That should be allowed. So now, when you get here, you are then going to say that, okay, now since we have created that, so now to just display everything, display the details created. So now we're going to say system.out. Okay, now let's do what we are doing all along. So we're going to say disp.concat 80. Okay, I know this is not going to appear, but I'm just going to come back up here. I'm going to put this, and then I'm going to assign it to an empty. to an empty. So now in here, we're gonna then concat. So we're gonna say that the name, the details, the student. Okay, let's specify and say the student details are as followed. So okay, then we're gonna go to a new line, concat to the end because we want to add another string in the next line. Okay, we're gonna say the name is concat. Then for you to get the name, you're gonna say hrs dot get what name. Then it's gonna give you the name. And next line, concat, put it down here. You're gonna say the surname is concat, and then we're gonna say hrs dot get surname. This one, concat. We're gonna go to a new line, concat, and then we're gonna say that the student ID is. Then we're gonna concat hrs dot get student ID, which is this one. That should be able to proper stuff. And okay, I use that here. It's supposed to be get. Okay. Set student ID. It's supposed to be get. Remove that. Okay. Okay. Let me do this. I've used set here instead of get. That is the mistake that I've made. Get student ID, which is this one. And then now, to show the class type, it's possible for me to say, okay, I want to go to a new line first and have an extra line. And it says the applicable class is, then I'm going to say hrs dot, then you'll see class type will appear. But here is the problem. It's because that is a void, and if I made it a void, what I can do to sort out that is that I can just return it here. I don't know why I always make this mistake. I always do, okay, this is not a void, returning type. This is supposed to be a string. I'm gonna have a lot of errors. Why? Because even the side it's supposed to be a string. Even here it's supposed to be a string. Okay, and then we have it here. We have it as a string, and also this side I'm supposed to be having it as a string. Okay. And then here we're gonna have to return okay. So here, let me say that should be fine. And then that should be sorted out. We should have a class type here. Okay, now, so let's make this to be visible. So here we're just gonna display this. So okay, then we are back in the main, running this, testing it out if it's working. After when we have applied abstraction, none of those, what you saw. I know it's not gonna appear properly, but let me come back here one last time. Yeah, I wanted to first go to a new line before it can display. Let's start this afresh, or we can just quickly go to output and we stop it here. We rerun it. Okay. and then Kodiso, Mashile, and my student ID is 1111. And then you can see it's able to say that the student details are as follows. The name which was received was Kodiso, the surname which was received is Mashile, and the student ID that was received is 11111. And the class which is applicable is an evening class. Why? Because I've used HR, which the return type here, it's just going to return the message, which is going to say evening class applicable. So meaning that whenever I put in the details, it's going to tell me that, okay, for you, Khodiso, what is applicable for you is that it's applicable that you can use evening classes. So that is what we were trying to implement here. We were trying to introduce the concept of an abstraction, which is an abstract method, and an abstract class. Remember, a class cannot have an abstract method. If I were to remove this, I'm going to have a problem here. It's going to tell me that you cannot have, so make a class abstract. So you cannot have an abstract method inside a class which is not abstract. But in the other classes where you're not making it abstract, you are supposed to override that method. You're not supposed to redeclare it again. So what we are doing here, we just make it in an abstract method. So what I'm gonna do, there's one of the episodes I'm gonna do interfaces. Why? Because I've done interfaces before, but in matter of fact, interfaces are just a replacement of us using the abstract methods. Because what an interface does, that an interface is able to declare all abstract methods, and in our manager class, we are implementing or overriding all of those abstract methods. If you go through one of the episode where I was introducing a manager class and also the interfaces, you'll see that we are just taking the process of you making a class to be abstract or hiding. So, but remember, abstraction is just the process of you hiding specific information. So as you can see, student is no longer accessible on the side. You cannot initialize it, and you cannot create an object if you cannot initialize. And you can only use both the ICT and the HR student, but it's using what is implemented in what in student. Why? Because the student is the super class and the parent class in this inheritance relationship. And as you can see, we are building up to something right now. We are building up to something. We are getting our hands dirty with this programming thing. It's now becoming something that we are mastering. So now this is really good. If you were following all of our videos from basic Java programming up until now, where we are doing a series in object-oriented programming, you'll realize that each and every episode is building up on the previous knowledge. So if you can just go through this course alone, you can be able to master Java programming. And once we get to advanced object-oriented programming, it'll be it. This will be the best tutorial you'll ever get. And please remember to share with your family members. Let's get the information out there. As we are living in a fourth industrial revolution, we are already there. It's not a thing of the future. It's already here. Let us just prepare ourselves with a little bit of information. And then we're getting out there. We're getting the information out there. Let's get working. Let's get our hands dirty. And this is Great Minds Coding, ZA. And in order for you to get it on YouTube, just search at Khodiso Coding. Then you will see it will appear as Great Minds Space Coding Space ZA. And that is it from me for today. Till we drop the next one, please remember to comment, like, share, and subscribe. Cheers.